Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending what part of the country you are in. But happy Easter. Today is Easter 2019. And just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit this morning. This video was not planned. I actually thought about this video this morning when I woke up at about 6 a.m. So I know many of you are going through, again, we talked about this yesterday, absolutely the roughest point in most of your lives that you've ever dealt with before. With your family, your friends, how you talk about this, how you explain it, what's coming next. And I also understand that many of you probably feel completely alone, lost. That's why we've titled this video, Finding Your Light. We don't do a lot of video on religious topics. I tend to avoid those topics because I know some of you may not agree. And part of me doesn't want to push anybody away. But at the same time, maybe I've been afraid to do videos like this because of how people may view me differently or judge me for having an opinion. So my opinion is I was very against religion going into prison, and it's absolutely so cliche. So many people talk about how they found religion while they were in prison, and that was also my story. I found religion while I was in prison. Maybe that should be a topic of a video, finding religion in prison. You know, for me, prison was initially the process where you guys are now, pre-trial, prepping for prison, lack of prepping for prison, really should be how I title that. But even my initial prison experience, entering into the prison, what I was going through, I really was at an all-time low. I felt like my life was over. I felt like things were never going to be the same. I felt like my relationship with my loved ones and my children were never going to be the same. And it's a hard adjustment. So a lot of you that are going through it right now, I understand what you're going through. And part of me wanted to do this video. I've got a couple of clients right now that I've become very, very close with. And I know they're going through a very, very difficult struggle, dealing with the reality of facing federal prison as things get closer and closer, meaning like they've already signed their plea agreement. Some of them have already done their PSR, and now things are starting to snowball very fast, which means every day you're forced to focus on what's coming next. You're forced to focus on the reality is getting closer and closer that you actually may be going to prison. And the likelihood is increasingly strong for these individuals that they are going to go to prison. When I was going through this, the pretrial experience, you know, my pretrial experience lasted a couple of years from 2011 to 2014. And early on in it, things went pretty slow. There would be several weeks of no hearing or communication with my attorney. And I would sometimes fool myself into feeling like, okay, life's back to normal. I'll focus on going to work. I'll focus on my future. Knowing, though, in the back of my mind that this whole prison cloud is still sitting there. Dear Talk, what's going on, Anthony? Happy Easter to you as well. And I do celebrate. Shelly and I are getting ready to head out to the lake after this and just go for a little hike in nature. But yes, I do celebrate. I am a believer. So there was days where I would almost feel like things were getting back to normal. And then all of a sudden you'd get that crushing call, and you'd see the area code pop up, or you'd see your attorney's name pop up, and you would realize it's not over. It is still there. So as your case progresses and it gets closer and closer to the finish line, meaning getting ready to go into prison or whatever it is possibly is going to happen to you, intensity can start to really creep up on you and stop you in your tracks and bring you back down. You start to have negative thoughts. You start to bring up your awfulizing. You start to think, why is this happening? This isn't fair. That's when the subtle thoughts of things like suicide and running, that's really when it becomes strong, is possibly in the very beginning and then towards the end. The middle is kind of, you're just in oblivion. So when I got into prison, I've told you guys this story before. My best friend's mother, who is a Christian life coach, Janice Lavore, she has one of the largest Christian life coaching organizations out there. If you type in Christian life coach, her name pops right up. So Janice started sending me books and material, things like Tony Robbins, the Bible, an everyday read from Sarah Young called Jesus Calling. And I initially wanted nothing to do with anything religious. It almost slightly offended me. But when things really became dark and my light seemed like it was dimming and things were closing in on me in prison, meaning I found out I wasn't going to get into RDAP potentially because I had an open case or an open detainer. And all of these negative aspects started creeping in. And every time I turned a corner, it was like one more nasty obstacle I had to get over. And every time an obstacle faced me, I would tell myself, this is just the way my life is. This is what I'm supposed to be dealing with. I'm not supposed to have anything happen good for me in life. And I would almost just embrace the negativity and just think this is how my life is going to be. And I remember it was a couple of days before RDAP started. I was making one final attempt to try to get my detainer fixed. Spoke to my case manager. My case manager at that moment in time wasn't being helpful, told me to go back to my bunk. And I was pretty angry and mad and didn't know where to vent it. And my bunkie, who slept underneath me, Josh said, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do to change it. But man, this woman, Janice, who's been sending you all of these amazing books like Tony Robbins and other life coaching material, also has been sending me these Bibles and daily readers. Said, why don't you give this stuff a try? You're trying everything else. You're out of control. You're angry. You're mad. I get it. You're not going to get into RDAP. You're not going to get the time off. You're going to be in prison longer than necessary. And if that's the case, you're going to have to find a way to come to terms with it and deal with it. And something he said just kind of like, it resonated enough, and it was also aggravating enough to where I was like, fine. So I got out of my bunk. I literally went and pulled the Bible out of the back of my locker. This was the Bible she had sent me. It's just a, every man's Bible, NLT, and very, very easy to read Bible. And I picked it up, and I don't remember what I read at it, honestly. If I told you, I'd be making it up right now. I don't remember what I read, but I read something in there that just gave me a soothing feeling. And it wasn't soothing to the point where I felt like I was going to get into RDAP. It was more soothing to the point where I realized it was out of my control, and whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And that was the moment. It was, I don't remember the date. It was early. It was a couple days before RDAP started. So it was like early February, or was it January? I don't remember. And that was the moment that I kind of gave in and realized that I do not have control of every situation, but what I do have control over is how I react to every situation. And that's when I started making this new progression through life in focusing on what I did have control over and not so much focusing on what I didn't have control over. And the only thing I started asking for from this newfound thought process when I finally gave in and allowed Jesus and God into my life was, I'm not going to beg to get the things that I want. To me, that seemed selfish and it seemed pointless. It seemed like that's not really what asking for forgiveness and praying for something is for. So I decided to use prayer in the sense of asking for my own strength to give me the strength to get through whatever hurdle you're going to put in front of me or whatever roadblock or tough time, good times, anything you're going to put in front of me. The only thing I ask is give me the strength to deal with it. So if I'm not going to get into RDAP, please God, just give me the strength to be okay with that and to move forward and deal with it. And I immediately felt better. Well, as you guys know, I did get into RDAP. Shortly after that little process in my mind happened, I got called back into the office. We're able to fix the detainer, get it fixed within literally 30 minutes. I mean, this case manager moved mountains for me, which he wasn't willing to do. So I'm not going to say it's either coincidence or maybe this book did have something to do with it, but I felt something that I've never felt before. Holy Ghost, whatever it is, I felt something go through my body right before that speaker called my name back into the office. So from that point forward, I decided, I'm going to give this a fair attempt. I've always been against religion. I've always knocked the Bible, but yet I never actually picked it up and read it. So it made me a little bit of a hypocrite to bash something without knowing enough about it. And is everything in the Bible true? I have no idea. I wasn't there during those times. But are they heartfelt, warming stories? Are they things that you can grab onto to give you a positive way of thinking? Absolutely. It allowed me to change my thought process and stop focusing on what was negative in my life and start focusing on what was positive in my life. So she sent me that. She also sent me this book, which is a daily read. You can pick this up on Amazon. There's a link in the description in the video. It's like $8 on Amazon. And we're actually going to read a page out of this today, because every day, for those of you that don't know what a daily reader is, every day you're just supposed to follow it. 365 days, you pick it up. It's a one-page read, and it's really to get your mind set right. And it prefaces from different areas in the Bible. Bonnie, happy Easter. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us. So what was funny though is today, I haven't read this. I'm not going to lie, guys. I need to get back to this myself. I haven't picked this up in months. And when I picked it up today, if you look at today's April 21st, if you look at April 22nd, at the bottom of the page, Shelly is home. Shelly went to the halfway house, and I forgot this date, and she forgot the date. She went to the halfway house April 22nd, 2015 is when she went to the halfway house. So it was just ironic that today is the day that I picked up this book. So I would like to kind of share with you the kind of information that's in this book, and then we'll talk about how this can apply to your life. So instead of hearing my hideous voice read this, I downloaded a little video and I created a little clip here for you guys. So let's go ahead and listen to today's April 21st. If you pick up this book, and if you have this book, we're going to go ahead and play today's reading out of this book. So hang tight for a second, guys. Here we go.
Good morning, friends. Michelle Saxman here, and ready to share Jesus Calling, April the 21st. Let me control your mind. The mind is the most restless, unruly part of mankind. Long after you have learned the discipline of holding your tongue, your thoughts defy your will and set themselves up against me. Man is the pinnacle of my creation, and the human mind is wondrously complex. I risked all by granting you freedom to think for yourself. This is a godlike privilege, forever setting you apart from animals and robots. I made you in my image, precariously close to deity. Though my blood has fully redeemed you, your mind is the last bastion of rebellion. Open yourself to my radiant presence, letting my light permeate your thinking. When my spirit is controlling your mind, you are filled with life and peace. Good morning, friends.
All right, so that was simple as that. And many of you may be watching this video right now that are, either not religious or against religion, or you do not think it's going to help. And my advice to you is try something new. We have these roadblocks in life where we feel like we don't need anybody else's help to solve our problems. And when you realize that you do need help, and you do have to let people in, you do have to give up control. You're not in control of this situation. You're in control of how you react to this situation. That's the only control you have. And you have control in how hard you're going to work, putting work into your narratives and character reference letters and prepping for the PSR. But you have to find a way to deal with the demons in your head and how you're really dealing with these dark times. And that's a great read off of today. Basically realizing that if you allow his voice into your mind and you just read that and apply it to your own life and how it applies to you here and now, you can realize that by changing your mindset and stop focusing on what's negative in your life right now. Nobody wants to go to prison. Nobody wants to explain to their children that they're going to prison. Nobody wants to have a criminal record for the rest of their life or be a convicted felon and all of the negative connotation that follows that. But that's what you're facing right now. So how do you turn that into a positive? If you can force yourself to do positive things like read the book like this. Maybe none of you have ever picked up a Bible before and read it, but you're against it like I was. A Bible can be difficult to read. Maybe you don't know where to start. You don't understand the process. And in a Bible like this, and I can give you guys a link to where, this Bible was given to me on December 23rd, 2014 from Janice. And what's cool about Bibles, a lot of the newer ones, especially if you were new like me reading a Bible, they have what's called like 1 year reading plans where it breaks it down for you. It takes a lot of the thought process out, and all you have to do is follow the rules. It'll tell you on January 1st, read this, and this. It might take you 20, 30 minutes. And it might be forceful at first. I'm going to tell you, this was not easy for me because I was not religious. I was very much apprehensive about what I was doing. I was skeptical, but I made a commitment to myself. I said, you know what? I don't know anything about this book. I'm going to give it a try. So I picked up the book and just at a certain time every day, usually it was during the 4 p.m. count time, or was it 3 p.m.? I forgot, 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. was one of the main count times before dinner. We'd go to our bunk. We'd have to wait for this count. So I'd usually go right to the Bible first because that was going to take the most time. Obviously, reading this is much quicker. So I would read this at nighttime, right before bed or first thing in the morning. And I would read the Bible during the 4 p.m. count time. I would sit down on my bunk until they would tell us to stand up, and I would just start reading. It would take me 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depends on what sections you're reading. But I didn't have to figure out where to go into the Bible to navigate it. It gives you a breakdown of what to do on January all the way through December. You just follow the rules and you follow the format, and it gives you the ability to go through the entire Bible, and it goes from story to story, and it keeps it in reference point, so it all kind of loops together in the end. And you're going to read things in there that are just going to click with you in your own situation at the moment of what you're going through. And you're going to realize that the only way you're going to get through this experience and making it into a positive experience is by keeping your mind filled with positive thoughts and positive influence. These two books, in addition, I don't have the other book here with me because I let a friend borrow it, my Tony Robbins Awaken the Giant Within book. Those three books, so the Bible, the Daily Reader, and Tony Robbins, those three books became a solid rock in my anchoring of life. When things got a little bit tough for me, or I got some negative news, or I started to awfulize, or I started to think I was going to get kicked out of RDAP, I would go back to this because this is what allows me to reset my mind and realize whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's a cause and an effect from everything that we do. Every action you make is going to have a consequence, whether it's good or bad. So when you can focus more and more on making futuristic, positive actions that are going to create, or more likely create, a positive outcome, you start to see positive consequences ahead of you. When you can really focus on that and you can do it in the here and now, and you can stop allowing yourself to get stuck in a negative thought process for more than a few seconds, you start challenging yourself and you start turning yourself into a believer. We've talked about intentions. Intentions do not matter. My intentions for reading this book initially were just out of curiosity and why not give it a try? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I'm not going to like what I read, or I'm going to think it's BS and I'm just going to go on to something else and go read a fairy tale or pick up a different type of reading material. Well, for me, I chose to accept the reality that I was in, and I chose the positivity that these books presented to me, and it made me feel much better about the situation, and it gave me insight and courage to continue pushing forward and doing the right thing. Doesn't mean just because you start reading the Bible, you need to go out and be a preacher and start telling everybody, oh, you're going to go to hell for the way you're doing things. That's not what I do with it. The Bible is for me. And if I meet people along the way that are like-minded, great. If somebody wants to ask me a question, if they're not a believer and they ask me why I became a believer, I'll give them my reasons and they can do what they want with it. Everybody's at a different point in their life. And sometimes you can tell somebody something a million times and it never takes root. And they hear it one time from somebody else and all of a sudden it's like the first time they heard it. We see that with our kids or us as kids with our parents. Our parents told us over and over and over again, don't do certain things, or this is the way you should do things. And we never listened. And then we do the same thing with our children. And then our children will hear it from somebody else. They'll hear it from a stranger. And it's like this epiphany went off in their mind. And it's like they heard it for the very first time. And you're like, I've been telling you this your entire life. Don't worry about how they get the message as long as they get the message. And the point I'm making is I finally received the message that I needed to hear that has probably been told to me a million times over. And I finally hit a rock bottom point to where the message sunk in and it stuck with me. And now I have the ability of sharing this message with so many of you that, in talking about religion on my YouTube channel, for those of you that are getting ready to go to prison, it's a scary thing to put yourself out there and really tell people how you think and what your views are, because at the same time, this is a business and I don't want to lose business over it. But if I'm going to stay true to myself and I'm going to expect you guys to do what I suggest or hope you guys take it into consideration, I have to be willing to do the same thing. So I can't live my life differently than how I'm asking you guys to try to live your life. So when I ask you guys, when I say, do things for the right reason, everything else kind of falls in place. Well, to me, the right reason is telling you guys that I am a believer and that I do keep this as a part of my life. Maybe I don't talk about it every day on YouTube because part of it's fear. I don't want to push certain people away. I don't want people to go, oh, well, Dan's some Bible thumping freak. And if that's what people are going to think of me, I have to remember what I tell you guys is I can't control what other people are going to do, say, or think. I can only control how I react. So if people are going to feel a specific way about me because of how I choose to live my life, then there's nothing I can do about that. But I have to be true to myself and I have to be true to you guys. And it's just a part of the walk of life that I've chosen. So, when you ask yourself, does the path ahead seem dark, empty, and alone? It does. It very much does. Even if you have your family and your friends right there, it still feels like what you're going through. It still feels like what you're going through is the end of the world. No matter what I tell you, no matter what your friends are telling you right now, prison is a fucking abyss. And yes, I use curse words and I still believe in God. So I might get struck by lightning any second now. But it feels like an empty abyss of just darkness and emptiness. And part of that is because you're looking so hard. You're trying to swim through these waters. You think you're going to find the answer. And the answer might be right in front of you. Just realize that you have to let go of control. And as soon as you start to do that, that's why I chose this thumbnail. You kind of see the light peeking through the trees. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, but your focus has to be on what's going on today and tomorrow, not the fact, if I get sentenced to 5 years, how am I going to do that? A human mind is not designed to focus that far out. We are designed to want answers. We are designed to question things. We are designed to make sense out of things. So when you think of a 5-year prison sentence, in an area unknown, there's so many uncharted areas of that whole process. You start to break down and do nothing because it becomes too overwhelming and too heavy. Well, if you relieve all of that stress and give that stress to something else, God, me, I'm not comparing myself to God. I'm comparing myself in the fact of, let me help you manage your stress and your pressures. And the way we can do that is we can get your mind focused on what are you doing today to make tomorrow better. Forget about what are you doing now to make next year better. Because if you focus on these small interim goals, what you're doing today and tomorrow and the next day to make the day after that and the day after that and the day after that a little bit better, eventually that long-term goal that you're interested in is automatically going to be much better than it's looking like it's going to be today. So focus on the here and now. Focus on what you can do today to make tomorrow better. What did you not do today that you wish you had done tomorrow? How many of you wake up saying, I was supposed to do this, I was supposed to do that, and I didn't do it? And it makes you kind of bogged down. You feel a little empty inside. You were cheated on your diet. You didn't go to the gym. You didn't work on your personal narrative today. You didn't work on your character reference letter. Maybe you were going to look up some terms and you were going to start studying your own case, and you haven't started yet because you don't know where to start. That's where individuals like myself can use my insight, my guidance, my experience. We have a team behind us, an entire team of professionals that are here to make your life easier. And it's all based on a premise of doing the right thing for the right reason yields amazing results. We know that if we put in the hard work and we study, we create the education. I told you guys that I became certified through, trying not to unhook my internet here, so I reach over my messy desk. I told a lot of you guys about a foundation of a drug-free world that I became certified in, and I just got my certificate yesterday, so here you guys go. The purpose of this is we really want to reach out to youth and really explain the damaging consequences of substance abuse and how it can affect not just children, but young adults, teenagers, basically trying to reach people before they make these same fatal mistakes and end up in a place like a prison, or in some cases worse, dead on the street. So we take what we do very serious, guys. I know a lot of you watch my videos and you're like, well, you don't look like a lot of these other prison consultants. Some of these other prison consultants, they're charging so much more money than you, and there must be more value with what they're producing. No. At the end of the day, a lot of people are in this industry just because they found a way to continue their white-collar activity and target white-collar individuals who are willing to spend $20,000, $30,000, $15,000 to possibly not go to prison. If you look at this college admission scandal, all of these parents hired consultants to get their kids into these schools when their kids did not deserve to go to these schools. Now, there's prison consultants out there on different news stations and different media groups that are marketing towards them. So now you have these parents that hired a consultant to get their kids into school. Now these parents are going to hire a consultant to keep them out of prison. There's nothing wrong with that, but when a prison consultant exploits that to put his name out there to let these parents know, but doing it in a way where it can be damaging. I think if a judge knew that these parents were hiring consultants to now get them out of prison, and they just looked at the fact that this is what got them into the problem to begin with, they may look at that as if they've learned absolutely nothing. So why a consultant would go put his name all over, Fox News and CNBC and CNN as a consultant to help you not go to prison, and openly talking about having clients that are part of this giant conspiracy going on, to me, it's not doing it for the right reasons. Have we received calls about the admission scandal? Absolutely. Would we go on the news and talking about the clients that we're helping? Absolutely not. It's going to hurt everybody involved in the case, which is the conversation I've had with a couple of the attorneys from the admission scandal. Is they were very hesitant about talking with me because they were afraid we were going to use that as publicity to bring us business. And no, the business that we want is from the individuals that are out there searching the internet, looking for answers, looking for help, looking for somebody to help them, guide them through a very, very dark time of their life. And it doesn't need to be any more exploited than it already is in such a... Everybody's watching that. That is a massive scandal that has got media attention across the world. Everybody is looking at it. And it's the worst thing, in my opinion, is to use that to catapult your business through advertising that you have clients from the admission scandal. It blows my mind what some people do to make a buck. Let's read some of these messages. A Course in Miracles with Marianne Williamson is a very powerful tool. Very powerful too. Well, appreciate that, Bonnie. Adrian, happy Easter to all of you. Oh, Adrian said, if anything, your business will grow. Well, I hope so. I didn't want to make this a long video. It's already about 30 minutes. I really hope you guys are out with your family this Easter. I know it's hard to focus on the little enjoyments in your life right now, but I promise you, almost all of you that are watching this video, you will have a release date. This will be behind you, and nobody could have told me that either. So I know what you're going through, but guys, just try to find positive energy that you can put into your life right now and combine that with hard work, ethics, taking responsibility, doing the right thing for the right reasons, getting involved in your narrative, getting involved in your character reference letters, putting energy and focus, understanding what's going to go into this pre-sentence report. And when you find yourself getting in a dark funk, that's when you want to pick up a book. And, for those of you, the Jesus Calling book, it's in the description of this video. There's a link to Amazon. It's like $8 for the book. If you've got a loved one in prison, send it to them. Maybe they won't read it today. Maybe they won't read it tomorrow. Maybe it will sit in the back of their locker just like mine did. But there will be that moment where finally they hit rock bottom and they're going to go, holy shit, I need something to lift me out of this dark hole that I'm in, because this depression is suffocating me. It's getting me to the point where not living life sounds like a better alternative than whatever life I'm going to live. And when people start thinking that way, that thought can become so cancerous to the rest of your well-being that when somebody actually follows through with that act and takes their own life, it could have been prevented if people maybe would have intervened or taken the signs more serious. So if you have somebody going through something serious, don't just assume that they're going to get over it on their own. Be that person that drops seeds here and there, because this book is a seed. And what I mean by that is you plant that seed today, it may not take root tomorrow, but when it does, when they need it, it's going to be there for them. And you might be somebody that has the ability to save or change somebody else's life to making better choices, better decisions, and just living life in general. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Go spend time with your family. Do something really beautiful. Like I said, we're going to go out to Lake Coeur d'Alene. We're going to go for a nice little hike. It's beautiful out today. It's like 70 degrees. Sun is shining. Birds are chirping. And that's all I need for a happy day. So I love every single one of you. I'm RDAP Dan, Federal Prison Time Consulting. People helping people. Community is method, one day at a time. You guys have a great week. I'll see you next week. I'm out of here. Peace, everybody.